Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Be Well reading series. I'm your host for this evening, Nicole Tallman, and I have the honor of being joined by three fabulous readers this evening, and we're doing something a little bit different tonight. We tend to focus on poetry with the Be Well reading series, and I noticed that there were some people who were poets who had written novels, and I thought to myself, it might be kind of cool for us to bend and blend some genres. I know some people don't want to be defined necessarily by genre, so we're gonna see how this goes. It's kind of an experiment. I'm kind of excited about it. And just to give you a quick run of show, I'm going to have Rosie read, and then Cavar read, and then Ben read. I'll read everyone's bio. I will drop links in the chat to people's books. We encourage you to, if you have the means, support our writers and purchase their books or order a copy for your library if it's not financially in the cards for you to purchase it. And we also will leave a little bit of room at the end for questions. So if you have a burning question for any of our writers, feel free to drop that in the chat, or you can also ask at the end. I'll go around and ask people if they have any questions. Just for housekeeping matters, I'm going to respectfully ask, if you aren't speaking, please mute yourself, because I want to reduce background noise as much as possible, so that the people who watch this recording later can have a nice, clear recording. Also, our readers might want to have that too for their archives as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Rosie. Rosie is our first reader, and Rosie is a queer Guido writer and editor who lives in Michigan. Shout out to Michigan. I'm from Michigan too. They graduated with their MFA from Naropa University in 2022. They released their first poetry collection, Referential Body, with Go City Press in 2019. And Super Normal Stimuli is their first novel. It's out now with Bullshit Lit. I'll be dropping a link. And you can follow them on Instagram at Rosie Accola, and on Substack at rosievisions.substack.com. I think I said that right. I hope I did. Everyone, please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Rosie Accola.
Hi, thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm so excited to be here tonight as a poet who has crossed into the territory of the novel. I wrote a lyric novel about gay Guidos called Supernormal Stimuli. It is the unholy love child of Brokeback Mountain and Jersey Shore, which is just what grad school wanted from me. Just kidding. But yeah, I'm just gonna read a little bit from the introduction, because one of the things that I've learned as I've sort of made this transition into this prose space is that personally I get a little confused when people just drop you in the middle of their novel. So I'm gonna read from the beginning so y'all get a sense of the characters. All right, this is called And You May Find Yourself in a Room Full of Guidos. Suspend disbelief and let your limbs grow heavy. Build an industry out of a shred of hope that someday you can make something of yourself. Make people believe that someone will see your flickering glance on an otherwise innocuous day and find you beautiful on the street or palming an avocado at the grocery store. The allure of reality TV is that you're supposed to see yourself. No matter how this is, that the static nips the soft pads of your fingers. So come on, curl your hands into a fist and let your limbs grow heavy. Let your nails grow into pearlescent lavender talons. Let go. Develop a taste for the gulp of brine swilling at the bottom of a jar of jardiniere. Yes, of course, you have obligations. Taxes, deadbeat boyfriend, forget about it, as they say. You are the market and the actor. You are Genevieve Leone, 24, former award-winning dance captain of the Ridgeway High Raiders and current aspiring dental assistant. Your ambitions are singular, like a perfect high kick. Your Nona brought you your first pair of tap shoes when you were 2. and you were supposed to be a star until you pulled your ACL senior year. You were about to resign yourself to a life of plaque and platitudes until the casting call for Sizzling Summer, New Jersey, smacked you in the face like a message from an angel that happened to be stapled on the telephone pole outside your best friend's house. You watched the first season of Sizzling Summer, New York City, with bated breath and a molten, red hot certainty that you could do better. You broke an Emery board in two when you saw that Jennifer Avery, the series' breakout star, had a line of artisanal Emery boards at CBS. Emery boards are your thing. They make you feel spiritual. So you set up a camcorder in your room and you recited the theme song like a prayer the moment before you pressed play. You're young, you're hot, you're not a bummer. Have yourself a sizzling summer. Julia Girardi is 29, but don't tell anyone. She has a cat named Prosciutto. She will, in her own words, cut a bitch if anyone messes with her friends or family. She has a penchant for silk halter tops and a good crumbly parmesan. She likes to draw and dislikes guys who work out and won't shut up about it. She does cardio too. You don't see her talking like she invented Gatorade. Giuseppe Cacciatone is 25 and subtle as a crowbar to the knee, dense and sweet like Nona's tiramisu. He's the kind of guy who would make someone's mom smile and nod while their vodka aunt calls him a starter husband. He works out 7 days a week. He unironically believes in the power of protein powder, hustling hard, and his lucky chain. To prove its luck, Giuseppe swears that he was wearing this chain the night he met Jen. Joey Sorrento is 25, a wannabe professional bodybuilder, passionate about carbo loading via fettuccine alfredo and snagging chicks. He has a tattoo of a snake eating a skull on his left bicep. He's never met an Ed Hardy t-shirt that he doesn't want clinging to his sculpted abs. He calls Prosciutto a demon and secretly feeds him tiny chicken shreds to bulk him up. To the surprise of everyone in the house, Joey is an amazing cook. His chicken parmesan will bring tears to your eyes. He is the driving force behind Sunday dinners. Carmen Imperioli, 23, is the quiet one in a house where it's easy to be considered quiet when everyone else screeches at the top of their lungs. His sister told him to audition for Sizzling Summer as a joke, and he did it because why the hell would anyone pick him? He is slight compared to the other guys and speaks with a quiet certainty that Allie appreciates. Leah Fonte is 27 with an aura like cotton candy. She operates the tilt-a-whirl on the boardwalk. It's rare to see a woman operating the rides. She cuffs her short sleeve shirt and pulls the levers with the self assurance of a rocket scientist. Her right cheek has a dimple that makes Julia feel like she might be having a stroke. She smells like bubblegum. Leah disregards the supposed sainthood of juice heads and sweating and steroids and swaggering, saying that they know what tough means. She wears a chain that she stole from the bouncers at Promises. Ali Rosario, 37, is the mastermind behind Sizzling Summer, New Jersey. She is burnt out from trying and failing to wrangle bloodthirsty bachelorettes in yet another unnamed dating show project. Her family had a shore house when she was a teenager. She had no idea this qualified as unique until her best friend told her other producer friend she told her other producer friend about holding her best friend's hair back as she barfed a Long Island iced tea onto a hermit crab when they were 19. And Allie's friend said, "Wait, please pitch that to Sizzling Summer." She slipped the email of the executive producer of season one into her back pocket, and the rest, as they say, is history. Allie used the advance to track down a dilapidated rental blocks from her parents' old shore house. She papered Pleasant Point with posters advertising casting calls for Guidos and Guidettes looking for a good time. Leo Carlucci, 52, owns the rental property at 1782 Surf Court. His hot dog shop at the boardwalk is woefully understaffed. He stopped listening to Allie spew buzzwords about tourism and mindful tenants when he realized that this dumb show could solve both of his problems. He's never seen season one. He doesn't own a television. He's a solutions-oriented man looking to expand his hot dog empire into textiles and wearable goods. Did you know that hot dogs that hats shaped like hot dogs look like dicks, because Leo knows that now. Kyle Rosario is 19 and a rising sophomore at Arizona State. He needed an off-campus credit for his internship for his film major, and his cousin Allie needed an intern that she could not pay and not feel bad about. Technically, he's paying her for this internship. Prosciutto Girardi, 15, feline, is here for both a good time and a long time. He's a dapper orange lad who has been biting the nose of every slumbering douchebag that Julia drags home since 1999. And yeah, that's the first one. Thanks. Y'all are so sweet. Here, let me find another good beginning one. That's the other hard thing about reading prose is that the sections are so long. With poetry, it's just like 5 minutes and done. And then with prose, it's just like, oh God, diction is real. Um, all right. This one is called There's a Club Called Promises. The air crackles with the sound of people sliding into purple velvet booths covered in cloudy layers of plastic. Each table is covered in a glistening, crunchy resin made of sparkles. A fishbowl sized ocean of blue caraco and lemonade awaits you at the bar. The Surf's Up special is on the house. Julia scoffs and requests a top shelf gin and tonic. Joey and Carmen are already stalking the carpeted perimeter of the dance floor, like glinting off their chains like 100 little stars. Why the hell would a club have a carpet? Julia asks, sipping her drink as it threatens to spill. I don't know. I still think it's cool that we get free drinks. You notice a red melting Swedish fish bobbing in your drink. You stab it with a cocktail straw and plop it into your mouth. It's hard to chew, somehow tough and gooey, but it tastes like vodka and the sour tang of powdered lemonade. It's good, and this is how you know that tonight will be a good night. Allie checks the frequency of your mic pack and tucks it into the back of your dress. Tonight is about having fun, okay? You're here with your friends to have a good time, just like going out at home. It'll be good. You won't get sloppy tonight, just loose enough for the world to obtain soft filmic edges. And you know you can come find me if you need anything. You nod. Julia swirls the ice in her drink and gives Allie a thumbs up. I can take care of myself. Thanks. I know, but part of this process is knowing that you're not alone. Are you going to tell me we're a family or some bullshit? We could be. You like to watch the world shimmer. New Year's Eve, stimulants, the days when the snow melts and it's sunny enough for icicles to sparkle. As you lick the sugared rim, you decide you also like Surf's Up specials. I can't believe you drank that whole thing. Julia picks the quiet spots at parties. She surveys the dance floor with an air of cool detachment, looking up from her drink only once to smile at the woman with the jagged bottle blonde bob. You recognize her from the boardwalk. She operates one of the rides. Julia keeps trying to look anywhere but her eyes. Their hands brush, and Julia jerks hers away and slams her elbow into the bar on an accident. It's the only time she seems to react to the chaos of the club. Otherwise, Julia is content with her seat in the steady stream of shots offered, never noting a burn or that she's feeling it. When a head hands her his number on the back of the soggy menu, she doesn't even say thank you. She nods once, tucks it into her black clutch purse before focusing on your empty glass. Seriously, I doubt you're supposed to consume more than one. Can I at least get you a water? I'll have three if I freaking want to, because it's good and it's free. I can have three whole drinks for $0 freaking because you hiccup for dramatic effect. I'm a star. You watch white t-shirts tint blue under neon lights, and people grind in dark corners. Joey has his arm around a blonde girl who keeps wrapping her fingers around his chain. Carmen is fist pumping with aplomb, even though he has yet to say one word tonight. Let's go dance! You fling yourself onto the dance floor, enraptured by the swabs of people. Part of you will always know how to move your body in a way that makes people watch. It's instinctual. You learned how to dance before you could form full sentences. A girl does a cartwheel in the middle of the floor, and you feel your skeleton lurch as you see the entirety of her labia before she hits the ground with a thud. Part of you hates being outshone, so you slip your shoes off and take a steadying breath to stabilize the corners of the room. When the beat drops, you plant your palms firmly on the grody floor and lean into a perfect handstand. You move forward a couple of paces. You feel the straw wrappers and a wet puddle of what's hopefully just beer. The guys around you start to cheer. It feels like feminism when the bones in your wrist settle in the exact right place to hold your weight. There is earth beneath the dance floor. There are creatures and roots below you. You are flooded with noise. There is comfort in the sound when your feet find the ground again. No one knows exactly how you got home last night. You remember resting your forehead against a cool pane of glass in the back seat of an oversized SUV. You remember the feeling of Julia's knee crammed against yours and the clipped tone with which Joey announced that the ride was here. You wake up from a dream where you that feels like falling. For a moment, you wonder if why the walls are bare. Where's your peeling no doubt poster? The glow in the dark stars from when you were a kid that you insisted on dragging to your apartment. Then you realize that you're not at your house. The lights are loud and your head is pounding. Hey, Julia croaks from the bed next to yours. Want to get bagels? A bag clip holds the curly mop of Julia's hair. Carmen is wearing sunglasses indoors. Joey is gripping a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel like it's the key to his absolution. Hunks of fried egg ooze out the side every time he takes a gargantuan bite. You order a bagel sandwich with lox and clutch the round hunk of tinfoil to your chest like it's a child. Julia finds a table outside and settles back into a latticed metal chair. You find a spot next to her, and Joey slumps across from you both. Together, you form a jilted, hungover constellation. Crumpled bits of tinfoil and parchment paper dust the table like stars. Moments later, Carmen arrives with an armful of iced coffees. Oh, thank God, Joey mumbles. He pops the top off of his and gulps until the plastic cracks. You nibble at a hunk of lox dangling off the edge of your everything bagel. How did we even get home last night? I called us a cab, Carmen says. That shit was crazy. Jersey at its best, man. You know it. I think, you say as you separate the halves of your sandwich, that this is why we're like alive. Really, you think we're here so you can grind on a rando on a Tuesday? I mean, yeah, kind of. You feel Joey starting to judge you. It gloms onto your face and hardens. It's the reason why your cheeks hurt when you smile. It's the guilt that sits metallic and cold at the bottom of your stomach when you sneak a blush into the sleeves of your hoodie at a CVS and leave without paying. This is the feeling of how easy it is to slip away. You were supposed to love college. Instead, you grew to resent the cyclical drudgery of class, work, frat party, sleep. You hated study guides and frat parties and dirty basements. You hated midterms and the feeling of a frat guy's clammy hand trying to squeeze your ass in the dark. You were supposed to love college, and this truth was supposed to be communal. You had never felt more alone until last night, when the world unfurled like a pot leaf under a grow light. Instead of it trying to explain this to Joey, you say, I just don't think I'm supposed to be a dental assistant. I would not trust you with anything remotely sharp near my mouth, Carmen intones. Julia and Joey dissolve into a fit of laughter, and soon you're laughing too. I don't know. This is cool for now, but I'm not going to be like fist pumping at the bar when I'm 40, Julia says. I will. I'll be going to neon night when I'm 75, and then I'll go get brunch the next day and take my arthritis medication with a mimosa. Carmen squints in your direction. Isn't that dangerous? You shrug. The summer settles, soft and warm, onto your shoulders. All right, yeah. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you, Rosie. I think you found the perfect balance though, too. I have not tried to read from a novel before of my own, and I had the same kind of nervousness about it because it's like it's so different from poems. It's like there are clear breaks in between, and with prose, you just have these huge blocks. But you did so well. Thank you. That was really
Thank you.
enjoyable. So next up is Cavar. And Cavar is the author of Failure to Comply, which is out with Featherproof Books. And Cavar is the editor-in-chief of Many Worlds Place, and their work can be found in Electric Lit, The Rumpus, Split Lip Magazine, and elsewhere. A PhD candidate in cultural studies, they teach bicoastally and live on the internet. Find them at cavar.club and at Cavar Sarah on Twitter and at librarycard.substack.com. Please join me in welcoming Cavar.
Thanks, everyone. So what's cool about Failure to Comply is that it's actually coming out in 6 days. So this is a brand new first novel, and I really appreciate all you guys being here to listen to my first event, my first reading from it. So I'm going to start off at the beginning, like Rosie suggested, and then I'm going to end with one part from toward the other end of the book that I think is a pretty good place to end on. So yeah, I'll start with the prelude. The long-necked axe struck clean out of me my most beloved memories. Had my beloved been here with me, they could not have helped. There are things I learned that they cannot do. As for me, there was never hope for correction, as all my impurities have long known love. There comes a time when the bad is loved so much it can neither be corrected nor lived without. Love is a binding seal, a wax to keep the imperfection in, thick enough for water to skim, yet never penetrate. Without the love, we become easy to replace. What is to be replaced when the eyes are shut, when the eyes are on other things? An axe turned me from a loved into a silence. This was the final cut, the thing to separate me from all I loved. Here I was at the brink of everything real. Nothingness wrung cool and sure in its wake, but I would not know, because by then I was long gone. Slated for replacement, I was naked and uncitizen. Eventually, I would receive a gown light as air, translucent and white, all white, so white it hurt my eyes even when the lids were shut. The opacity of a citizen's clothes turned when I wore them to a joke like gauze, transparent as, but I ahead myself. Know that I was wrapped in a gauze that served no purpose but shame. With the swing of an axe, one makes a citizen's arrest, a process by which the one swinging has reasserted his or her status as a citizen by stripping an impure body of its own. And what does that make me? I was a person soon ago. Then research saw me hide, brought me back into the fold to be cast out once more. I am trying to be clear with you, but I can only speak in riddles. I've lost all the meaning that lived in my memories. I don't know which tense I'm living in, but this is not the future. I've lost the words to say what I have to say. I used to have a name. I used to have a place. I have a face I shouldn't see. I have a body I shouldn't hold the way I do. I know this. In life, there are the directives. There are those who obey, those who are obeyed, and the non-existent in between. There is no love, I learned. There is only power. Love is a means of pushing power down easy, of opening the throat. It is said, I do this because I love you. Why do you do this? There are people who love you. So it is said, love becomes the direction and force and frequency of power, transmuted one body to the next. Love is the soft touch of power. Love is the research to its citizen. Love is the perverse. Love is the you're sick, please better for me, sick better for all of us, sick and get better. Let us be whole and love again. Let love be the blade. And it is said, I am a person, been held captive for all these long years, for none of which she had a clock. She is I, she is me, she is in a holding cell, she is somewhere else. She could not mark the time. She has no proof. She has no body to speak of and no place, so she is many at once, and the lacuna requisites the whole. The beverage was blue, glowing quiet power. Microchips failed in the face of whatever was inside. Magnets dulled, minds cracked, metal turned to hot pain, and only flesh and blood and bone were spared. It was an addition of dead weight, drugged down, immobilized as a means of torture and correction, and also of detection. When a subject who passed outwardly as pure was brought in for questioning, they were first measured all over to determine their adjacency to the correct size, which changed each year. Their blood was cross-referenced with their birth data. The constant backlog of subjects for assessment produced yearly chaos at the containment centers. Research determined who was to be let go, who was to stay, and who was to be let go but chipped. Chipping by a research was not chipping, definitionally speaking, because chipping was a violent crime against the once pure body, and research was invested in the maintenance of purity, so it was instead called maintenance. Because they would likely need to be contained once more in the coming year, in the year whose end research alone declared with pageantry, and whose ages did not increase, and whose lives did not progress, were those first of that coming year to be gone, to be axed away into elsewhere. Do you understand? The words belong to them. Research is hiring again. They haven't hired like this since before I was born, taking only trainees schooled in truth from birth. Yet the notification blinked on every holoscreen in the community, jarring bites of color and sound. With the reissue of their internal guidelines for public health, I knew research had detected an increase in cases of deviance. I suspected their search was for doctors to attend the veritable epidemic in our midst. And so research advertised research, this thing of and beyond citizenship, stretching all imposing over it to the everyday citizens, scrolling with their pupils through the notifications in their AR contacts. They strode uniform over barren sidewalks flanked by newgrass eyes darting to one side and then another. I felt sad almost, before remembering that any of them would have me obliterated if given the chance. They'd get rid of me, claiming I had never been alive at all. The newgrass breezed beside citizens' feet. Each body took an upright stride, straight-backed and intentional, as the healthy body should. From where I sat, the face of the community was barren, abandoned for the AR. There was little to watch with unaugmented eyes but the bodies and their calculated movements. With the widespread acceptance of holoscreens and its accompanying AR contacts, the background world has fallen into misuse and gone all monochrome. From my space among the trees, I saw a world of wide newgrass expanses in dense, translucent whiteness, white houses, white garments, people who aspire to look like window glass, whose skin, despite transparent aspirations, came most frequently in various opaque shades of brown and beige, which were each rendered irrelevant by the contacts, which displayed in their stead only a word, another measure, which was of the utmost importance because it was true. Words not so much in separation, but in practice of strained and particularized togetherness. We were differently hued, but this was old world talk, which should not be thought, yet always research was light. Bodies, too, though shrouded in loose white linens, were marked by sex. Research's hiring, maker of the contacts, was guardian of truth. As a child, I watched my peers study their numbers. Back then, I had the contacts too and studied my own with attention. Height, weight, blood pressure, heart rate. And because we could not touch each other's skin, an act of perversity worth a diagnosis of acute self-sovereignty dysfunction. This is the way we became of each other. Research is hiring, calling upon others to protect us from ourselves, from the bodies we were bound to mismanage. Research is hiring. We saw the message uncontacted because it was projected against the sky, against the lid. Some other uncitizen, augmented by one form of illicit tech or another, must have found a way to siphon the message from the network and reproduce it by themselves. I looked to Rhea at my far left and asked them with my eyes if they could see the counterfeit above us. From the distance, I could see them, a basket of fungi on one sweating arm, sharp dotted chin upturned. Rhea did not watch the ad, but instead the sun in its timed daily rise, leaning forward on their shining silver crutches. When the timed breeze came, Rhea's black, unwieldy hair, thick in waist length, rose and fluttered with the leaves on the trees, which themselves swayed and bowed slightly in the wind. Feeling my eyes on them, they turned. With their free hand, they reached out to touch me, brushing pearls of dirt from my thinning chest hair. Last night, we slept in a tiny ditch beneath the moss and dirt with holes poked for breathing. This morning, we ate dirty leaves and sweet roots from our newly excavated hole. I returned their hand to them, guiding it to their hair, brushing until stray detritus hit the ground by the base of their crutches. Research is hiring. The text began to move closer to our hiding place, drifting through the sky. I heard a rustling far away and saw a four-legged silhouette in the distance. Something was attached to its back. It was a small, noticeable protrusion that seemed to wave as the uncitizen moved, the message bobbing with it from the sky. Another rustle. I dug my filthy fingernails into my palms. The silhouette and the rustle grew closer, the pirate message glinting into the now risen sun. Rhea and I dove into our sleeping hole, recovering with dirt and moss, disappearing at the still nearing sounds. Call me a projection. I am writing this for the public record. I heard the axe come down on the four-legged thing, and its wail, its head-splitting wail, penetrated the earth. When we finally emerged, the message laid long fallen. Everything is on the rise. Everything is now, and everything is serious. The news is no longer in the sky. I think I've swallowed something I shouldn't. I hope it makes it to my second stomach of its own accord, or else I'll have to fish around and put it in there before I can reject whatever sharpness I had to swallow for lack of another option. I crouch behind an overturned log, peering up to where the notification used to be. Its echo hangs above, imposing. I shield my face as if the message itself has eyes. And so that's the beginning. And I'm going to read one piece. Thank you. And thank you, Sarah. And I'm going to read one small part from near the end of the book to sort of give, I guess, a bookend to this moment. And then it'll be done. So this part is titled Acts 1, and the subtitle is Above. Rise the tawny light, woods high around us, bones below, trees scrape the real lid through which the sun burns. I see a body in the distance. I am running, and so are they. We know this, all know this. The hills we are each running down are the same hill, but we are running each opposite to one another, and this all goes smoothly. I know it's in my hands, big bladed. I know the sound my voice made when I begged for a chance. I begged to be the woman I could not be, believed in her, my only hope, knowing elsewhere underneath. This was the woman meant to be me, and this is where I am, and this is the axe. I am her, and I am practicing. I swing at the air, light chafes our surroundings. I run, watch as a younger and smaller and more poisonous me makes to swing. I see neither deviant nor person, but instead an axe-wielding cloud of data, every sentence lane as if an accusation. Then she transforms, and I become a body of severed limbs, their foot-trodden filth. I am every organ I have ever stepped upon, and then I am her, I am the axer itself. I know this is data from my own mind, data mined by research, now seized upon by a hand I cannot see. I am watching what might be possible, sentences, my sentence. The cat drinks milk. My window is broken. The store is closed. Again, a wiggling foot, a thigh. Several eyes lolling at random beneath the axe blade, fragments, amalgamations of all I have already seen. I pull back, let go. The scene dims. I do not float toward the poisonous me. This me did not swing. The pile lulled, spat, made unnatural sounds, sounds I anticipated would continue long after I left, if there was leaving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cavar. That was such a pleasure to hear you read that. I love hearing you read. I love hearing you read poetry, and I love hearing you read. I guess we will call that something in between,
Yeah,
because
whatever the fuck that was.
yeah, I don't know, but towards the end it started to get a little poetic there. So,
Yeah.
but we won't classify it. So to close us out tonight is Ben. And Ben Segal is the author of Tunnels and Pool Party Trap Loop, which is a really cool palindrome, I just realized. Wow, that's quite a mind that you came up with that. Co-author of the West Letters and co-editor of the official catalog of the Library of Potential Literature. He is also an attorney at an environmental nonprofit where he works primarily on climate-related legislation. Please join me in giving Ben a very warm welcome.
Thank you. And I hate to do this because it's like super pedantic, but litigation, not legislation. I don't work on any legislation. That's probably just my bad.
No, it was my bad. I can't read. So thank you for correcting
Yeah,
me.
no, that's just like a whatever. Doesn't actually matter at all. The important thing is this weird book that I wrote that also sort of, you just heard this, but it is also coming out in like a week. And this is also the first time that I'm reading from the finished thing. Unfortunately, my publisher for this is a really tiny press that doesn't have its shit together, and so there is no pre-order or link to it. But if anyone finds the thing interesting, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to send you like a digital arc and the link to the actual purchasable book when it exists. So I'm gonna, because of the sort of the form of this book is really important to it, I'm gonna try to screen share, and you will please like unmute and yell at me if it doesn't work. Wait, hold on a second. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. Is there any way that I can be enabled?
Of course, that was not intentional. Let's see here.
Sorry, I should have read this to you ahead of time. I just realized like as I was
No, it's
preparing,
okay.
like,
I'm just looking. I don't see where I have it locked. It says allow all participants to share screen. Maybe I can make you a co-host. Let me try something here. Let's see if that works. I'm just, you know what? I'm just gonna make you the host.
see
Let's see what happens.
what
Don't
happens.
don't end our meeting, okay, Ben?
I'm not gonna. That'd be a
All
terrible.
right. See
All right.
see if that works.
Uh, consistent preferences, security and privacy. Oh my gosh.
Everything kind of moved around recently, I think, with this new edition. I'm trying to help you see if I can find it for you. I was under more for me. You don't see it over to the side
And
under
I'm
more?
in security and privacy, but now it's just oh well. That's really frustrating. Because
Well,
I don't
do
have a
you see the green arrow that says share at the bottom of your screen in
yeah,
between
that's what when
React?
I click on that, it
Mhm.
says it I hit share, but
Mhm.
it's not it's saying I have to grant access somehow, which I think is my computer, maybe. I don't know. Okay, this is a
Oh.
frustrating thing. I will try to do my best to explain what is going on in the book then. Essentially, um, the book is laid out in a 3 by 3 grid. Each square in the grid is a paragraph, and each paragraph can be read across, down, or through to the corresponding square on the next page, and it is printed only on one side of the page. So it sort of looks like a three-dimensional crossword puzzle. And overlaid on that are a series of blackouts starting at the first page is like a pure grid. Every square is fill, and then it's all of every combination of black squares across a 3x3 contiguous black squares across a 3x3 grid is the rest of the book. So it's all of the ones, all the twos, all the threes. And so it goes from this very open, multi-directional text to a very closed, narrow text of little dots of text. The overall effect is that it is a sort of a literary architecture through which one wanders, rather than a novel that one reads cover to cover. And the idea is that you pick it up and you can kind of maneuver through it as you would, and then collectively the whole thing gives a sense of place, and there are certain stories that emerge from it, some of which undercut each other or overwrite each other, but there is not like a narrative per se. So with that done, I will read from a part in the middle because again, the whole thing is you can kind of pick it up and move through it. I was hoping to be able to show the screen, which is frustrating that it didn't work. Because it's kind of one of the cool things about it is that it functions as an abstract animation or flipbook, as well as being a sort of a prose text. But that's why now you all have to like email me and get me to send you the copies of the art. So that was my sneaky trick to make you like my book. 115. Here we go. So in this part of the book, basically the whole thing is set. Oh, that's not important. Okay. So I'm going to start reading. This is page 115. I'm reading the top left corner of the screen. All right. Frank and I have been thinking about skyways. Our buildings sit directly across from one another and are connected by a beautiful glass-bottom bridge against which we like to press objects. Frank presses written messages, and I prefer fruit. But either way, we both love the potential for signifying that skyways allow. We meet at the center of ours. I jam a kiwi into the glass. Frank wonders aloud, what if the city was filled with skyways such that the streets became covered arcades and the city itself a multi-level bazaar? I take to the idea and we draw up schematics. Fluorescent light shines through the kiwi smear. A passing bird greens underneath. Soon after, it's time to leave. I drive the long way home and stop by the bird sanctuary. Whippoorwills, swallowtails. A day ago, I cut names from a newspaper article and set them like captions on the lawn of a strip mall diorama. Displaced names as small jokes in an ugly display. Now I'm headed back to Clara at the new place. She's happier there. I am too, almost. So that is 3 paragraphs going down. 1, 2, 3. Then that last bit, starting from my drive home the long way, would be the beginning of the crossways. So I'll just read that just to kind of tell kind of the movement of it. I drive home the long way and stop by the bird sanctuary. Whippoorwills, swallowtails. A day ago, I cut names from a newspaper article and set them like captions on the lawn of a strip mall diorama. Displaced names as small jokes in an ugly display. Now I'm headed back to Clara at the new place. She's happier there. I am too, almost. She had sensed, under our old house, a sub-basement chamber that couldn't possibly exist. She said that it housed the ghost, not of a person, but a community, a clutch of voices in the earth. She started calling me Miles, a name from the ghost swarm. I grew taciturn, reflective. She refused to return my name. I withdrew, confused, a puttering apparition. As I spoke less and less, I thought more and more about my real name, which I had been unable to retain, how it had been cast off as linguistic jetsam, and, like excavated dirt, could never be placed back exactly as it was. I had to accept this nominal scattering. I was Miles now. The old name, truly, could no longer fit. So that's, if you imagine, it's kind of like an L. Um, so you can sort of see how hear how like that one in the middle acts as a hinge. And then I'm gonna read through the top left to the top left of the next page for several pages in a row to show you how like a through tunnel will work. So that's the one starting with Frank and I have been thinking about skyways. Our buildings sit directly across from one another and are connected by a beautiful glass-bottomed bridge against which we like to press objects. Frank presses written messages and I prefer fruit, but either way we both love the potential for signifying that skyways allow. We meet at the center of ours. Our company um, our company is in a building, sorry, our company is building a second skyway between a pair of even higher floors. Frank wonders how many skyways two buildings can accommodate before they become just one large building with some empty space in the middle. I propose that all buildings are just a series of skyways densely packed. Frank doesn't disagree. A hallway is a tunnel, as is a room. Aerial tunnels are skyways. The great skyway stacks of industries dot downtown, or something. We look through the floor to the street below. A yellow cab idles until a very tall woman gets in. She has long black hair and a small bald spot she expects no one will see. Frank tells a long joke about a similarly tall woman and a walrus who drives a great white moving truck. There's a death in the punchline. I make a face, raised eyebrows, pinched nose. Frank counters with crinkle eyes, jaw slack. I heighten my goofiness. Frank follows suit. We laugh harder and harder with each new ludicrous expression. Frank and I are still laughing when Palmer walks into the Skyway. He's in a bespoke suit and in a bad mood, and he lights into us for the expected charges of sloth and indecorous behavior. We straighten our faces. Palmer walks off. We collapse again into laughter. And then, yeah. And then I'm going to start reading down from this. We collapsing this laughter, and then this will be on the same page without moving into the next part of the tunnel. It keeps going that way. But again, you can kind of move through it in this sort of weird Tetrising maze navigating way. So this is from the top to the bottom of that page. We straighten our faces, we collapse into laughter. Our laughing goes on and on as if we've forgotten how to stop or that breathing could be anything other than sharp gasps between jags of total hysteria. And we keep laughing without needing jokes or funny faces or any humorous aid at all. We laugh on even as various coworkers pass us in the hall as night comes and then morning. Eventually, a doctor arrives. He stands over us and watches, but we can do nothing, cannot even talk to him to explain the situation. We're too far gone. The doctor reaches down as if to touch us, thinks the better of it, recoils to a standing and gently lip-biting position. It seems he has no idea how to help, but feels bound to remain. And that's the end of that down line. And so I'm just going to continue on reading through to the next page from the bottom left. And then, perhaps 20 minutes after his arrival, the doctor also begins to laugh uncontrollably. His pitch is high, piercing. Were we in a cartoon, the glass floor of the skyway would spiderweb into 1,000 cracks and fall away to the street. We'd float, suspended for a second too long, and then follow, still laughing, to the pavement. We'd fall on top of the broken glass, so whatever skin, the asphalt, and fractured bones left unpunctured would be shredded and studded with shards. Then we'd rise, refracting the light and dropping or spouting what blood remained. We'd dust ourselves off, freshly slicing our hands on our new glass skin, and wobble slowly to the subway. We would heal completely and without a satisfying explanation, and the glass fragments would remain embedded in our skin. We'd be weaponized knife bodies. We would ride all night on the subway, sharpening our arms on passing trains, breaking up muggings, resembling starfields when passing headlights caught us in the dark. So that takes you from 115 to 130-ish, going through these different tunnels, going across and down, and each of the pieces I read connects to at least one other direction of text, and the idea being that each one can mean quite differently depending on how you read it. The same named character might have a totally different identity depending on the direction of the story that you're reading, and so the overall effect hopefully is a bit of a dizzying or like dreamlike effect. And you can dip in and out and move through it. And that's the idea of the book. I wish you could see it. It's cooler when you can see it. It's like very much about about the play between the language and the form. But on the other hand, it's kind of nice that the formal picture of it doesn't sort of overwhelm your ability to hear the words, which is something you risk otherwise. So yeah, thank you guys for listening, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Ben. That was really cool. And I actually have the pleasure of being able to see it because Ben sent me the advanced reading copy. I was actually trying to screen share it as well while you were reading to help you out. I pulled it out of my email. I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to Ariana because it wouldn't let me share it either. And I've not had that happen before. It was so strange. But you know what? Maybe it's fate. Everybody's just going to have to buy your book. I mean, that's how I look at it. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's just the only option now. You're hooked.
absolutely. So as soon as well, I can keep looking for the pre-order, but when you have it, if you can shoot it my way, Ben, I'll put
No,
it
for
out on
sure.
social media so we can, make sure everybody knows how to find it.
Appreciate
And
that.
um yeah, it's really cool. It's conceptually, it kind of felt a little bit like choose your own adventure, but like through tunnels. I mean, I don't mean to like simplify it too much, but I just really loved choose your own adventure books when I was little and still now even. And as I was reading that, I kind of had that thought, but I don't know if you were thinking that when you wrote it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously that's one of the obvious like sort of touchstones. It is, yeah, there's like a not particularly well developed tradition of sort of multi-directional literature. There's like Cortázar's Hopscotch is a really obvious one. There are some like Raymond Queneau's famous like was it Samuel Milliard de Poem, which is like 100,000 million poems. It's like 10. It's like sonnets, which each of them is a strip cut out. And it's 10 of them. You can pull each one to different ones and then combine them. This is like this idea of like combinatoric writing or multi-directional writing is really interesting, and there isn't a huge tradition of it within fiction. I mean, but Choose Your Adventure is obviously the thing that got the most popularity. Yeah, although that one is getting closer to these sort of like text-based games where you are trying to get somewhere, you're trying to reach a particular outcome, whereas this is less of a outcome driven. You're not like trying to get to you're not trying to like win, you're not trying to find the treasure, you're just like exploring the space.
That's so cool. I love people's minds and how you come up with this stuff. Fascinating. I don't want to monopolize the conversation, so I'm going to ask our audience if you have any questions for any of our three readers. You can either drop it in the chat if you're shy, or you can raise your hand, or I can just ask a question of Rosie or Cavar. I see Sarah waving wildly at me. Please, Sarah, the floor is yours.
I have a question for all of you. So I'm a poet, and as I was listening, certain phrases would pop at me, like call me a projection, the news is no longer in the sky, the handstand sequence. There are a couple things like some things, the sun coming down, summer coming down on your shoulders. And same with you, Ben, the thing about I prefer fruit. So these are all popping out at me. And I wonder, since you have all written in both genres, I'm assuming, do you ever go back into your fiction and pull out phrases and craft little like poems from the larger prose that you're writing? Just for fun, or just to see if there's something in there that you could also integrate into your prose?
I can go. So thank you, Sarah. I definitely keep scraps. Like, I feel like a lot of times what happens is that when I'm writing prose, what gets to be on the cutting room floor ends up being worked into poems. But actually, like, sort of my genealogy as a writer really started off with like very like strict fiction, like very like um that poetry was not something that I thought that I was like capable of doing, which I think is what a lot of people experience when they've been brought up in like a very like traditional sort of poetic way through school, and then only been introduced to like contemporary poetry later on. So the only way that I started writing poetry was because I had all of these little moments that didn't quite fit into my fiction. And through reading poetry, I kind of found new places to put them and new creative leaps that I could take. So, if anything, I think it's sort of the other way around. That there are, moments that feel poetic that now I have license to place in stories. Hence me ending up with manuscripts that don't really look like prose or poetry or anything else. But of course, like as I said at the top, like there's all of these things that don't quite make it into fiction for whatever reasons, rhythm reasons, content reasons. But I keep them all if I like them. And a lot of times I just remember them because I like them a lot. And generally they work their way into my poems somehow or will in the future.
Rosie or Ben?
I have a less exciting answer, which is that I am pretty interested in like fragments, and so I do keep fragments of things in case I could use them, but I don't think I have like I don't have like a great track record of actually reusing it. They just sit in documents somewhere on my computer most of the time.
Rosie, the floor is yours. Are you avoiding the question? I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to
No,
answer if you don't want
I'm
to.
not avoiding the question. I'm trying to formulate an intelligent answer in my head. Um, so for me, I sort of look at supernormal stimuli as a very, very big poem at the end of the day. Because it started way back in the summer of 2021 as just one mini poem about like going to the beach. And then it just kind of bloomed because I started thinking about things like characters and like, okay, what are the relationships between each other? And it just kind of like spiraled out from there. And then one of my main like not even missions, because that sounds so like evangelizing, but like one of the things I wanted to do with this manuscript was to sort of point out the poetry and debauchery, like the poetry of a party, the poetry of a hangover, the poetry of messiness and reality TV, and the things that kind of people do not expect to inhabit in a poetic space. So there are some kind of like mini poems formatted throughout the manuscript. Like the handstand sequence itself is formatted like in a tiny square, like a poem, and the lines are really short. Whereas like the introductory chapter, that's kind of like the cast list, like those paragraphs are like bigger and blockier. So this manuscript really challenged me to sort of think about A, how do I want a poem to function? And B, what do I want the space of the page to look like? So yeah, I'm like, I will probably be tinkering with aspects of this book for as long the next few years or so. Like I love it. It's been the most fun thing I've ever written. I joked with my publisher when I submitted it. I was like, this is basically my this is such I said this is basically my leaves of grass. Like I'm gonna continue messing around with it regardless of whether or not someone picks it up. And then I just got really, really lucky and Veronica picked it up. But yeah, I love that sort of like world building and just like inhabiting the unexpected poetic space. And I'm trying to get back into writing poetry again after being in novel mode and also just doing a lot of longer pieces for day jobs and stuff. So yeah.
That was a great question, Sarah. Does anyone have anything else, or shall we end here? I see no hands, so I will go ahead and end here. I want to thank our three readers, Rosie and Cavar and Ben, for sharing their beautiful work with us. And we will be having another reading. These are usually the first Thursdays of each month at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I'll be announcing those readers soon. So please stay tuned on social media for that. And I'll also be sure to download the recording so that I can share that with everyone as well, in case you want to share with people who haven't been able to be here with us tonight. And once again, thank you so much for spending time sharing the space with our community. It's always important to support each other and authors' new work. And have a great night and be well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.